everyone. Welcome to Nova Scribes. Tonight we have a treat for you. Alex Suchman is going to talk to us about play and how we bring it to what we do. This is Nova Scribes, and a lot of you know we've entered into a partnership with the International Forum of Visual Practitioners. And tonight, like we do with a lot of these events, we don't charge for these, though we do ask for donations, which buys a cup of coffee. It helps us keep these things going. We're borrowing from Frederick Laloux's work and Pay What Feels Right. It's an experiment we're trying to do, and what we do with these, we actually give these back to the people who work with these events to ensure we can do more of these. So cut and paste this in chat real quick. And with that, let me give an introduction to Alex Suchman. Great things can only be accomplished when people work together, and play is the best way of doing it. We probably have a memory as a childhood where we were in play. And with that, Alex, over to you.
All right, thank you. I'll just say real quick, this is going to be very interactive and informal. So feel free to jump in if you have questions or thoughts or something. We're gonna play some games. We're gonna have all sorts of discussions. So I don't mind being interrupted. Want to make sure that it's relevant for you. So with that, let me share my screen. And what we're talking about is leveraging games in our facilitation to enhance reflection and self-awareness. I'm sure, how many people, I imagine a lot of your coaches, facilitators in that space? Anybody? Or what backgrounds are you bringing to this?
I haven't facilitated anything. I took a course in college that was called like Understanding Play. So I have a little bit of like context, but I haven't. I'm more learning about like facilitation than like coming here with any like experience.
Cool. Welcome. Anyone else want to share what brought you here? What interests you about this topic?
Hi, Alex. Thanks for asking. Former theater teacher here, and aspiring facilitator, taken courses in facilitation, and always found this method of interactive social gamification, if you will, to be very effective. So I'm excited to learn. Thank you.
Anyone else want to share?
Oh, just to break the silence. I just like the concept of play in anything. So anything new, I'm game for it, or play for it.
Excellent use of the pun. All right, so dive right in. And so what I'm talking about specifically is how do you bring play into the workplace for performance purposes, for building the type of trust and psychological safety and curious cultures that lead to better performance, for engaging people, for building better leaders, for building very specific skills that have to do with how people work together. I think there's been such a focus in the last couple of decades on technology and technical skills at the expense of interpersonal skills, and we're all worse off for it. And I think play is a really great way to re-engineer those in. So first, I just want to start with another quick question. Which of these emojis best reflects your gut reaction to the idea of incorporating play? I'll broaden it into your work. They're playing in a professional setting. You can either put the number of the emoji in the chat or just hold up your fingers and let me know which one of these. I knew Casey was going to be a 1. See some 1s. All right. I knew this wasn't going to be a representative sample because people are willingly and volunteering the topic. When I ask this question at conferences, there are a lot of 3s and 4s, and so many people have pretty bad experiences of somebody, the idea of like forced fun or like awkward team building, those things come up a lot. And the reason is because the play isn't connected to anything. you need to have a context for why you're playing and what the purpose is and how it connects to the objectives of the event or the priorities of the team. So that's what I'm going to talk about is how do you connect games to very specific objectives. I am a facilitator and consultant in the organization development and operations space. And I'm a co-founder of a company called Barometer XP that is all about how do you use play to help people work together better to make companies more effective and more efficient and make them very human-centered places to work. So we're going to do 3 different things today. One is the basic principles of game-based experiential learning. How do you bring play into the workplace, into professional settings successfully? To explore how do you integrate games for high performance outcomes. So going beyond, it's a fun thing to do when you want to build trust and have moments of joy, but to really get into performance related skills like decision making and clear communication, curiosity. And then practice using games for building better team dynamics and leveraging the experiential learning cycle to reflect on what comes out during the game experience. I think self-awareness is something that is critically important and devastatingly undervalued, especially with how much time people are spending with technology, sort of avoiding having to deal with your feelings or things of discomfort or uncertainty. We, pick up our phones and have that immediate comfort. And as a result, we're not really thinking like, why am I nervous in this situation? Or what is stressing me out? Or, why do I have this excited feeling? We're sort of dulling our emotions and not really using them as valuable data to figure out how to make better decisions or lead a better life or get better outcomes. So that's really what we're going to dig into. Question so far, is this in line with what people were expecting?
I have a question, Alex. I feel like I'm
Yes.
soft pitching it. Would you mind sharing a story or the story about how Barometer XP, where this idea of play came to you, where this idea of let's get people together and play in an event, and how some of the story, the journey you got to that, or I think
Yeah.
you shared to me beforehand, and I've forgotten, and I'm really curious about how you started
Yeah.
this idea of bringing play to bear in people's lives and work.
Yeah, absolutely. I started my career in public policy and public health, and I've always been a problem solver, loved it. As I started moving up in my career and, first managing projects and then managing teams and departments, I started to notice how important culture and infrastructure were to the experience of doing the work, and the things that led people to get stressed or to burn out, or the things that led to conflict, were often not so much about the people, but about underlying systems and problems within the system. And I felt like if these are system problems, that means I can fix them and I can make work a better experience for people. Because if people are happy and engaged and feel like they're set up to succeed, they're going to do better. So I ended up shifting into the organization development operations space internally within a company. And then I went on my own as a consultant doing that. And I would be hired for what sounded like really straightforward projects. Come in and organize our digital shared drive, or we need a better process for how we follow up with, potential clients. And they sound like, objective. You just go in and you do the process. But why those were problems all had to do with people issues. This team didn't want to talk to this team, or, this person was really attached to, this is 10 years ago. So before everything was all digital, these people insisted that the only way to successfully put together, the newsletter and the weekly bulletin was to pass around a printed out copy and get everybody to write their feedback, and other people wanted to use technology. And so these are all people dynamic things, people who think differently and solve problems differently and have, different skills and backgrounds. And until I could figure out the people dynamics, I couldn't make any progress on the problems that I was actually trying to solve. And so these are all people dynamic things, people who think differently and solve problems differently and have, different skills and backgrounds. Until I could figure out the people dynamics, I couldn't make any progress on the problems that I was actually trying to solve. And I noticed that self-awareness and lack of self-awareness was a huge piece of that. It's really, people tend to dig into, well, I do things right. I do things the way that work for me. It's everybody else that's the problem. Has anybody ever heard that in direct or indirect language? Yeah. You can't get anywhere when people have that mentality. And so I was like, I have to get, in order for people to engage in this change process and for me to actually come up with a solution that will work because everybody will adopt it, I need to get them to see how they factor in the way that they show up, the assumptions that they make, the work that they do, how it factors in to the status quo and why the status quo isn't working, and to get them to buy into this change is going to benefit them. And so as I was thinking about what are different ways of building that self-awareness and opening up some of those conversations about how different people think and why people act the way that they do in certain situations and what is underlying a conflict that's not really a conflict, it's just people looking at something from different angles. Games are a really great way to do it because you have people interacting with each other. There's set rules, there's parameters. You can strip out the people's roles and responsibilities and need for subject matter expertise. And you can just observe and have them observe how they interact as people. And all of the interpersonal dynamics come up. People cannot help but show up as themselves. And so the thing that, drives you crazy about your colleague in a meeting is going to drive you crazy in the context of a game, but it's much easier to talk about it in the game because it's lower stakes. Because people are a little bit more willing to let their guard down. And then people get really into it because they notice, if I asked a question differently, I would have gotten a better response. So instead of, Christy rolling her eyes because I'm not answering the question in a way that's helpful to her, I know what she's listening for and I'm going to answer the question that way. And now Christy's going to like me and Christy's going to take the time to help me when I need help. And all these little ripple effects of just when you understand each other better. So it started as just this side idea and a side project with now one of my co-founders, Peter, who's a game designer. I would just take little games into my clients and they would love them and it would sort of crack the code wide open for how do we solve this deeper problem. And then after a few years, we turned it into a business and really built a methodology around how do you use play, how to use games strategically. And that's some of the stuff I'll share with you today.
Oh, Alex, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Was that helpful? Any sort of questions or thoughts coming to mind? Did that bring up anything that resonates with you? All right. Oh, Stephanie, did you come off mute?
Well, you might get into this at some point, but I was curious about maybe a story that you had where there was an issue at a company, you brought in the games, and there was a sort of a transformation in the relationship.
Yeah.
I thought that might be interesting.
Yeah, I could share one of those now. It's sort of a teaser. About a year ago, there's a marketing company that we actually work with. They do our marketing, and they asked if I would facilitate a session for them. They're distributed. They have most people are in, I would say like 2/3 of staff are in the US, and a third are in the Philippines. And so people are working different time zones. There's different languages. They'd had some turnover, and the owner of the company wanted people to be more self-sufficient and wanted them to be able to collaborate more and not come to her every time they hit a hurdle. And so initially it was like, let's just do something fun. Let's get people comfortable with each other. Let's make sure that the people who are non-native English speakers, see that their colleagues are lovely and they're not going to judge them if they, don't type things grammatically correct. Let's just build that level of comfort. So we did a couple of games, and everyone was laughing and we were reflecting on, what does this show up for? What does this bring up for you? And people were noticing, oh, wow, like I didn't realize that, this person whose job is, they're like an account manager, but they're actually really creative. And I didn't know that, now I want to go to them and ask them for ideas when I need a creative idea. So great session, ended it there. We're like, okay, maybe we'll do another one to dig a little bit more into some of the dynamics and spur the type of collaboration and accountability. 2 months after that, I had a meeting with the owner, with the founder, and she said, I just figured out that every week I have between 5 and 7 hours back of my week to work on the business. Because one, in discovering that they really liked interacting with each other, the staff now look for reasons to communicate with each other. So when they have a question, it's like, oh, I haven't talked to Ethan in a while, and like Ethan is really smart. Let me ask this question to Ethan and see if he can help me work through this. And then they're taking ownership and solving the problems themselves. And not only that, but and so they're not going to Stephanie, for the owner of the company, for help. She's not having to hold their hand as much. But then through these collaborations, they're also bringing ideas to her for, we figured out a way to make this process more efficient. Or we came up with a new offering that we think our clients might like. And really stepping up their initiative because they felt more valued and more engaged in the company and more able to see where their unique strengths and perspectives and talents could help the company grow, that they got very excited to grow their role and help the company's success. So that was really just focusing on building stronger connections and sort of opening up people's minds as to how they can relate to each other. And it ended up having measurable business outcome.
Alex, did I hear
cool.
this right? One meeting, 2 months later, she said, I have 5 to 7 hours back in my work because the team's communicating better and they own their work better. Oh.
Yeah. And they also, the operations manager of the company, she ended up going through, we have a play facilitator certification program where we teach people how to facilitate play. She went through the program and she ended up coming up with a D&D-esque role play game where everybody on the team has an alter ego character, and it's all done in Slack, where they go on these quests and people love it. So they've really made play a central part of their culture, just by seeing how much everybody enjoyed it and how much they got out of it. So that's one example. So now we are going to dig into first a playful activity. And the question is, what does successful facilitation feel like? But really, like, what does successful collaboration? Let's change it to successful collaboration. What does that feel like? And we're going to go to an application called Pickles. And you can either scan the QR code to pull up the app on your phone, or else I'll put a link in the chat if you would rather do this on your computer. It's a drawing game, though, so it's a little easier to do with your finger or a stylus than with a mouse. So draw, what does successful collaboration feel like? Then you could be as literal or abstract as you want in your response. There's no right answer. And as you draw, it will show up on the screen, but not with your name attached to it. So don't worry if you are self-conscious about drawing. Oh, I see a martini. Love it. Hands reaching for each other. These are fantastic. That's somebody dancing. These are awesome. Does anyone want to share what you drew and why?
And feel free to come off mute and talk if you'd like. Just come off mute, just talk if you like about what we'd like to share, what you drew and what's the reason why. I'll lean in. I'll jump in first. I kind of drew a dancing person, um, because at the end, it's when it's done well. It's when you have a successful meeting and everybody's giving each other a high five. It feels like a pivotal moment. And my wife does these dance parties when she's really excited, so it's kind of like a good time for a dance party. Um,
I love it. Oh, I like the martini, a perfect collaboration of all the ingredients. Yeah, like each part, each piece plays an important part, but the whole is more than the sum of all the parts. Anyone else want to share? Got quiet all of a sudden.
I drew the people, and it's supposed to be like their arms raised, and it's like different types of people together, and they're like working together, they're happy, and they're feeling better about their what they're working on, and they're feeling happier about coming to work. They're enjoying the time spent with their coworkers.
enjoying
Yeah.
time spent. Oh, wonderful.
Just to clarify, those hands are all working together. And I write in the moment of collaboration when people are engaged and like in it. The sparks that fly, that's a little light bulb in the middle, just the creativity, right? There's more that ripples outward.
I love it. These are absolutely fantastic. So in reflecting on stepping away from the question, but in the activity itself, how did it feel drawing the response to the question rather than answering it verbally?
Renee had it. Renee.
Hi, yeah, it felt like I could communicate a little bit more clearly. It felt like it could flow a little bit more easy. It like my energy kind of and visual graphics is a little bit easier to it feels like there's ease of communication there when it comes to visual graphics than when it comes to verbalization. But that's kind of
Yeah.
like what my idea of like successful facilitation looks like is like you have a visual and you can draw from that visual and it can be something that helps you with, your productivity.
Yeah. Thank you. That's great. Anybody have a different response? A different reaction?
I thought it was kind of tricky. Um, it felt like abstract and like it was a lot harder to like put a picture to like what I was like if you asked me, I would think that I had a vision in my head, but having to actually draw it kind of tested that. So it was interesting to see like where my head went because I didn't really have an idea like going into it.
So right away, we have people, you did the exact same thing, exact same instructions, and really different experiences. And so if you start to reflect on why, Renee, it sounds like you're a very visual person, and that's very comfortable and intuitive to you. And Ethan, maybe you're more analytic, or maybe you are more of like to see things written down to process information.
Mhm.
So just in comparing how people's initial reaction and experience was to doing something, you start to uncover patterns about yourself and about other people. And can recognize that your emotional response to any situation is really valuable data about yourself. And starting to recognize what are those patterns. And when you're in certain types of situations, um, when does it bring out the best in you? When does it make you uncomfortable? What about it makes you uncomfortable? What can you observe or learn from other people who might be approaching it from a really different perspective? What connections might they see that you don't see? And so all of these things that are very internal, when you bring them out and you have these conversations, it's really powerful. And if you do it with a group of people, especially people who you work closely with, whether they're your colleagues, whether they're clients, you can start to uncover a lot about why team dynamics end up the way that they are, where there are misunderstanding, where there's potential for better collaboration, where where people might be able to step even more into
Mhm.
their zone of excellence and their areas of comfort. So a couple, so like the first reflective question is just like, how did this make you feel and why? And just taking that moment to step back and look at what did you notice in yourself is really important. And then thinking about, how might your team, if you were to do this activity with, it can be your colleagues, it can be your classmates, it can even be your
Mhm.
family. Like, how do you think other people, a group of people that you regularly interact with, how do you think they might respond to this type of activity?
No, I have a thought on that, Alex. It's almost like running a strategy event. And I like how you modeled, you didn't give much instructions. You said, hey, click on this website. Here's a question, go forth and draw it. It's interesting because the Pickles tool it's not necessarily designed for really artistic work, right? Because using your thumb on the screen, it's too small.
I love that it's clunky. It's like an
It's very,
equalizer where like professional artists could not draw anything better than what you all drew.
and if, for example, say, hey, when our strategy is successful, what's it look like for you, or something like that, and ask everybody to draw it, and then discuss that drawing at the table. You gave everybody one, a barrier to get over, which is the tool itself, and two, now you gave them something to talk about other than what's in their head. They have an image and a visual they can talk to, and so, in a lot of ways, it ties it to that, and it starts saying up. It gives people time to think also before the conversation happens. So you're modeling two things. You're modeling you're letting the introverts think through things before the open discussion happens, and then you're letting everybody come together in a safer space, have that conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so many levels going on when you use play, when you use a game as an experience for that type of learning. And then the next level is by observing other people, how can that be beneficial to you? And sometimes when we're in the moment and we're just so focused on our own role, we miss a lot about how other people are engaging and interacting. But seeing, you know, um, that Renee jumped right in and like loved coming up with an image and was really comfortable with that. That's great to know. I just learned something important about Renee, and if that's going to affect how we communicate going forward, and what assumptions I make about what she's good at and where she might be a great partner for me, or a great collaborator. And so by just noticing what those subtle differences are in how people
Mhm.
experience something opens up a whole new world of better understanding each other and new opportunities for how you can work together that are really practical.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts or reflections about pickles in this first activity?
I feel like these games can be a little intimidating sometimes because you're like, oh my gosh, my drawing is a mess. And I could see where some people might have a little anxiety about feeling like they can't draw and they feel like that's not their expertise, and other people
Mm-hmm.
might be more natural for them. I know
Mm-hmm.
with playing Gartic Phone and other games, I've kind of gotten used to those types of drawings, but I wondered how other people might feel.
Yeah, and when I go in and work with a team, do a lot of research ahead of time about, what are their comfort zone, and how do people think, and what are some of the challenges. And the most important part of play facilitation is how you introduce it, and making it seem relevant, making people know how it's going to be relevant, but also letting them know what successful participation looks like. So with this game, with other games that involve drawing, I will say multiple times, this is not about what your drawing looks like. This is paying attention to how you feel or what you're thinking as you're drawing, or as you're going through this activity. It is No one's being evaluated on their performance at all. It's just noticing what's coming up internally. And so we have people who are not at all comfortable drawing. And, we always say this is optional, feel free to observe. But if you observe, you need to think about, you know, what is it that's making you uncomfortable, and then try to figure out why this feels like a stretch activity, or what you're self-conscious about. And usually what happens is people will observe at first, but then they'll see, oh yeah, like other people aren't great drawers, and oh, these things are really funny. And then by round two, they're like, okay, I want to be in it too. Because they've just sort of seen what's expected, and how they're supposed to engage, and the benefits of participating. And so that's a big piece of facilitating play, and you're bringing it into the professional space, is making sure that you're getting the buy-in from people of how it's going to benefit them, and what's expected of them. Yeah, that's a great observation. Any other questions, comments on this piece?
I think one of the things, Alex, often with events, we have such a desire, especially in an organization, to be right, or go for perfection. And this is a great way to do something that no one's going to draw a perfect picture on pickles, on whatever we're here to talk about.
Yeah.
And it gives us something all to talk about afterwards, or inside of a group.
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful.
Well, in games, in play, there is no perfect, because it's about the journey. It's not about the outcome. And when you play with people who are really competitive and it's only about the outcome, that's a great conversation to have about how that type of focus affects the team, because they're probably not everybody's favorite colleague. They've probably been the source of some conflict on that team. And so it's a great way to bring that out and talk about it.
Love it. Love it. It's wonderful, Alex.
Okay, so now I'm going to go like behind the curtain a little bit and share some of the principles behind bringing games into the play space. And then we're going to do another game. So the first one is thinking about, as I mentioned, so many people have had negative experiences with play in the professional setting. And so that's something very early on, my partners and I were like, we want to figure out why it often goes wrong, and what are the things that you need to think about to do it well and to get these amazing outcomes. And one of them is to think about, what's the purpose of play? We call this the depths of play iceberg. And there's 3 different levels of depth in the outcome that you can accomplish from playing in a professional setting. One is team bonding, just building those relationships, establishing rapport, sparking new connections, maybe having a chance to talk with somebody you don't normally get to work with, figuring out you have something in common, or they, know something about something you're really interested in, and encouraging that curiosity. So just leaving your roles and responsibilities and power dynamics and deadlines aside, and just interact as people. This is largely what was in the example that I shared with the marketing team, about how just letting them explore these connections, and get more curious about each other had incredible outcomes in their performance. And there's not a lot of deep reflecting, or deep application of reflections. It's just having that journey and what that journey reveals. When you go a little bit deeper into building team building, that's where you're starting to look at that question I opened up. How did this make you feel? What are you thinking or feeling? Or, what reactions and responses came out of this experience for you? And people start to notice those patterns. They're practicing self-awareness and saying, I do tend to get a little uncomfortable when I have to express myself visually, because I am more of a verbal person. Or, a lot of games have a timer component. People say, I do get really stressed when I know there's a timer component. And you know what? That shows up in my work with how I relate to deadlines. I don't perform my best when there's a tight deadline. And maybe that means I need to start preparing things earlier. So just starting to notice those patterns about yourself, and then talking about those patterns with the people that you work with. And that's going to build empathy, and then understand the differences and how you can leverage those differences for better collaboration. So team building is bringing the reflection to the individual level, to just figure out how do you better understand each other, as individuals, and how does that help you work together better and communicate better one-on-one? The deepest level, team development, and this is where you really start to get into organizational change, is how does the group perform in this game and experience? How does the combination of all of the different individual perspectives and dynamics, how is that an asset for the team? How does that facilitate their success? And what blind spots are there? What opportunities for improvement are there? So you can strategically say, okay, in order to better collaborate, we need to spend more time just making sure we're clear on instructions. Because a lot of people, will explain something once, people will think they understand it and run away, but not realize, run away and start working, but not realizing they have very different understandings of what came out of it. And then, 2 weeks later, when you come together and share the progress, it's like everybody rode in different directions. And that's frustrating because then you have to start over. So, maybe we need to spend more time on instructions and expectations, or maybe we need to share more information ahead of time so people who are internal processors can have a better understanding before we come to a meeting and talk about things. And these really concrete ideas that are going to lead to creating new norms for how the team works together, how they can expect to work together and feel like they're set up to succeed. Any thoughts on this iceberg idea? Casey.
You're like no, I feel like I'm dominating conversation here. I think when people think about play, a lot of times people think about team building or team bonding, right? That's that upper tier. Though when you look at most professional sports teams, you look at essentially how effective teams in the military work. They're playing at that deeper level. They're playing down at the practicing and how do they play at that level. Yeah, so I never thought about it this way, that the bonding, it's team building. Yeah, we got a fun little game. Yeah, but the different thing is, how do we actually do something that engages everybody at their best self, to in some way model something, so when we go through and start doing the work that that actually delivers change inside of an organization, we're building upon something we've already modeled or practice amongst ourselves.
Yeah, and because as you get deeper and down the iceberg, the level of sort of intensity of the reflection questions gets it gets much harder, and so you can't just dive right into the team development level reflecting. You have to work your way down to get people first comfortable with the idea of play, because it's such an inherently vulnerable act, because it's about the journey and you don't really know what's going to happen. And then to get comfortable with the reflective piece of it and just noticing that, your emotions are useful data, and how to talk about that. And then to get into, okay, if you think about this in an applied way, how can it help us? What can we learn? So there's a lot of getting people comfortable with the process and the approach.
And Alex, it's fair, and it's been a while since your site. I think it's been a month or so. You have a lot of this laid out there on a lot of the games you guys have mapped and laid out amongst the work.
Yeah, and I'll share that tool later on. Yeah.
Fabulous, fabulous.
All of this is available. Any other thoughts or reflections on the iceberg and the different levels of depth that you can get through bringing play into a professional space? All right. So then the next piece, framework behind facilitating play is the experiential learning cycle. And have people heard of Kolb's experiential learning cycle before? It's a validated methodology. It's been around for a long time, about why experiential learning is so important and how to do it in a way that's going to get the best outcomes. And the idea is you have an experience. In this case, it's a game. And the first question is, what just happened? What did we do? What was this experience? And then you get into, how do we feel about it? You have the experience and it's going to bring up emotions. It's going to bring up thoughts and assumptions. So what are those? And just get those out and to see all of the different dimensions at play in how we're showing up and what's affecting how we show up. And then, why did this happen? What was it about this particular experience that brought out those thoughts or brought out those feelings? It's getting at those patterns. And then thinking about, okay, now that I understand what happened, what if we change a variable? You know, I'm uncomfortable because we didn't spend enough time at the beginning asking clarifying questions. So next time, I'm going to advocate for that. And so then you can play the game again or play a different game and spend more time up front getting that clarity and sort of practice and say, okay, how does this time compare to the last time when we tried this one thing? And you keep going around. So it's a way to iterate on what's happening and start practicing implementing these really small changes that can be at the individual level. It can be just in reframing assumptions. It can be how you interact with each other. It can be a real process change or implementing different tools. But it's a way of just seeing incrementally what different outcomes you get and getting more comfortable with the change itself.
And Alex, I'm throwing my thoughts in here again. I almost see often teams go straight from what do they experience to what are we going to do next, and they don't spend time exploring the reflecting and the conceptualizing phase. This happened. What are we going to do about it? Without going through the work that's involved to understand what's going on behind the scenes. And it sounds like play is a way to walk people through this process.
Yeah, I think in the field of change management, there's been such a focus on just like the process and the metrics and not about how do humans respond to change. People like change. Most people don't immediately react with like doing the happy dance and feeling all into it. And so if you ignore the subjective emotional experience of people, you're sort of cutting yourself off at the knees in terms of how effective the change can be. And so sort of games let you build in and better prepare for what is the emotional experience, what's important about it, what concerns do you need to address in order to get people on board, or what are the things that make people feel really excited and engaged, and how can you make sure that there's more of that? So you're sort of priming people to feel the negative emotions rather than just dig into or feel the positive rather than just dig into the negative.
Mm-hmm. So in some way that's slowing down so you can go fast in some ways.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, very much so. And making sure you're solving the right problem. I think so often, if you think about a lot of companies and how they implement new technology, and it's like people are really stressed and overwhelmed. Okay, it seems like we just need to put in a new CRM or bring in a new AI tool. But really it's because people have too much work to do and they're using too many different tools and there's a lot of confusion. So you're solving the wrong problem by not really digging into what's underlying. These are where how I got into this and noticed everything comes down to team dynamics. If you don't explore what those team dynamics are, you're not going to solve the right problem. Yeah.
And Alex, you said something at the very beginning is that all the real challenging things that we solve take people to do it. It's not an individual. Mm-hmm. And if we get the people working in the same direction, having the same vision, having the same goals, having the same energy, we can do some amazing things.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay, so now we're going to play a game. I know Casey's played this one. Stephanie, you said you have some improv experience. Have you played Count to 20? Okay. And this is a perfect size group. If you want to play the game, turn your camera on. If you'd rather just observe, just turn your camera off. It is very simple. As a team, we are counting from 1 to 20. We have to say every number. You can't just say 1 and then immediately go to 20. You have to cover everything in between. Everybody who's playing must say at least one number. But if 2 people say the same number at the same time, we all start back at 1. And we can't say anything other than the numbers. So we can't say, okay, Casey's going to go first and Osnat's going to go second. Nothing other than the numbers can be said. And we can't gesture, like I can't be like, I'm going to do 7. So we're trying to come up with a way to get a sense of each other's pacing, to look at what body language or facial expressions people show to indicate when they're about to talk. It's going to take a couple tries to get it, so it is not a big deal to mess up and have to start over. That is absolutely part of it. And I have in here cheer when you get to 20. That's not really something I need to put in the instructions, because when we get there, it feels so triumphant that everybody like very naturally erupts into cheers. So any questions about the instructions?
The numbers need to be consecutive or a
Yep.
salad?
Yes.
Oh,
Consecutive. Great
and someone
question.
can't go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, right? We can't do that.
Right, because
Okay.
everybody needs to
Okay.
say at least one number. Yep.
And it helps having everybody off mute when we do this, right? It helps.
Yep. We come off mute, on video and off mute.
Are we going to be able to see everyone? Are you going to take down
Yep,
the visual?
yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, I'll stop sharing the screen in a sec. Just want to make sure people are clear on the instructions.
So we're counting to 20.
Okay.
We're counting to 20. Someone's going to start and say the number 1. And we try to consecutively go 2, 3, 4. And if 2 of us collide, we go back to 1 again.
Yeah. And I'm just going to observe.
Alex is even playing with us.
I'm observing.
So Alex, I guess you get to start us. You get to start us off, or tell
Whoever wants to go. Somebody jump in with 1.
1,
2,
1,
2,
3,
4,
5,
6,
7,
8,
9,
10,
11.
12.
13. Oh!
All right, so you got from 2 to 13 in just one round. So what helped you? What do you think made that second round more successful?
I'm looking at everybody on the screen. I'm actually I'm fully focused everybody on the screen.
All right, so let's pick up again. So somebody start at 1. We'll see if we can get to 20 this time.
1,
2,
3,
4,
5,
6,
7,
8,
9,
10,
11,
12,
13,
14,
15,
16,
17.
18,
oh,
That's 18. That's amazing. So much progress each time.
1.
2,
Oh!
1, 2,
3,
4,
5,
6,
7,
8,
9,
10,
11,
12,
13, 14,
15.
Oh! 1.
All right, so you get the idea. Okay, I'm going to go back. Now I have reflection questions on the screen. So, and we're going to reflect on 2 different levels. So first we're going to start with that team building of reflecting on the individual experience. What did you feel? What were you feeling and thinking during that game?
Like we were all kind of a unit, like we were all working as like a hive mind. We were all trying to kind of think the same thing.
Uh, what else?
It's definitely harder than it seems on the surface because it seems like a pretty easy game. And I realized that if I said a number right after, like really quickly after someone said it, I could usually get it in without worrying about someone else doing it.
Tito.
We're going to notice like patterns about
Mm-hmm.
pacing.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent.
And there's certain people you're tuned in a different you're listening and you're watching. This is a deeper level of observing the group, and you start noticing certain patterns. I think Stephanie's quick to jump in. I was quick to jump in as well, trying to jump right in and just get it out.
Yeah. So now we're getting into the second question is what did you notice about each other as you were playing?
I noticed that sometimes someone may jump in and seem a little anxious in their response. So I think I was really trying to focus on flowing with everyone and also kind of modeling maybe a calm nervous system so that other people can just kind of like, follow along and not be anxious.
Yeah. So you noticed that some people were anxious and you decided that you were going to take on the role of trying to ease that some. So that affected the way that you showed up. Excellent. What else did you notice about how different people approach that?
I noticed Christy at one point was like warming up to say her number, and it's almost like you felt it coming. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you
I
all.
don't know if anybody knows. Oh, go ahead, Christy.
Sorry, just navigating, I think, an unstable connection here, but also our friend with the no camera, really, without eye contact, without visibility from afar, was very impressively cohesive with the group.
Mm-hmm.
I apologize. This is Vijay here, and I'm driving. I didn't want to miss this at any cost. Right? I'm driving back from DC to home, but I really love the session. Trust me, it's so engaging, even with someone with half focus. But yeah, I love this session.
I love that you jumped in, VJ, and that's such a representative example of what happens. In our lives now, people are engaging in all different mediums and communicating in all different mediums, and you never know what type of communication obstacle or channels are going to be available, and so just being attuned to how people show up. When we do this on video and a team gets it for an extra challenge, we'll say, now turn your cameras off, and you have to pay attention to very different things. So in noticing if you felt anxious, if you wanted to jump in really quickly, if you were comfortable in the silence, and like, do those tendencies show up in other situations for you?
Yeah. I want to get things started. Often for me, I just want to get something started, get it going. So I think I started like 2 of the sessions or 3 of the sessions, just jump in and get it going.
Mm-hmm. And so we were a team that worked together, be like, okay, we know like Casey is really thoughtful about time, doesn't want to waste time, also doesn't, maybe is worried that people are uncomfortable with silence. So he's going to get things going. And knowing that about him, either I could say, great, like we can always count on Casey to get things going. Or maybe it's like, hey, Casey, what if somebody else wants to jump in? What would happen if you didn't immediately go? And if there was a little bit of silence, how would that change things? So you could have those really explicit conversations about what if we change this one little thing, or what other assumptions are people making about why somebody acts the way that they are. So those are team building type is looking at the individual behavior and how that affects you. If you go into the team development to go a little bit deeper, is what helped you work together better as a team? Renee, you mentioned that right away you felt like it was part of a unit. So what helped you feel that?
A common goal of clear communication together and really going for also just like being an individual within a group.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What else? What other things do you feel like helped you work together as a team within this game?
It was really nice to see, and I'm sorry that I have to log off early. I'm sorry to miss the end here, but it was nice to see the team allow for those kind of who had not spoken yet to shine, right? For everyone to have their moment of value with the team.
Yeah, I see some nods. So was that important for other people as well? Yeah.
Yeah, I knew I didn't have to have all the answers, right? In some ways, I knew there were other
Mhm.
people here supporting us as well, and the weight's being spread across the group here. It's not just being carried by one or two people, which is really nice.
Mhm. So if we were a team, we could say, wow, so that inclusivity and interdependence sounds like it might be a core value for us, and this is how it shows up. So how can we take this experience and like where can we apply this elsewhere in our work to make sure that we can cultivate that feeling, or sort of reassure each other that that value is present and everybody's paying attention to it. So then you can think about how you structure your meetings, how you make sure that everybody has a clear understanding of the objectives, how you communicate things that can be applied to help work together as a team and take the insights from this game and apply them.
I think this is Alex. I think this is a great model for how teams communicate in general. If you think about it, right? Because a lot of times teams are colliding with each other in their communications, and it's a nice way to realize that for us to hear each other, we actually have to hear each other.
Yeah.
This actually also puts me in it makes me think about the Cliff's strengths,
Mm-hmm.
where everyone has different strengths. And instead of, how do I say this? Everyone having their own strengths and being able to use those strengths as a group efficiently if we all know what each other's strengths are. So like, for example, my intention was like, wow, I noticed there's some anxiousness and, with the responses. So I'm going to, this is my strength, is, trying to, pace with, and lead with, a pacing that says, hey, we can like just have fun and be calm and just get in there. But if we don't know this about each other, right, it could also have the wrong perception. But if we know these things and know the different strengths that each one of us have, not only are we more able to embrace, but we know who we could call on for certain things that are, happening in a team dynamic. I don't know. That kind of sounded like word salad, but I hope you guys understand where I was coming from with that.
Yeah, you're spot on. And I think you mentioned like the Clifton strength. There's all these different assessments of like, what's your problem solving style? What's your communication style? And I think those are fine. But if you don't emphasize how do you interact with people who are different from you, how do you bring in all these different perspectives, you're really doing a lot of damage because people can just dig into, well, I'm this is my strength, and this is what I do, and don't ask me to do anything else. And then you essentially just become like the a-hole on your team. And so something like this where it's like, let's pay attention to what does each person bring. Let's help each person recognize your unique perspective, the different gifts and talents that you bring, and then let's talk about how to leverage them. You know, if somebody has a strength that you're never using, chances are they're not super happy and engaged with their work, and the whole team is missing out on not having it. So I love how you said, like, what are the things that it would be helpful to know about each other? That's where all of this comes from, is, you know, what are the things that would be helpful to know about each other? What are the helpful things we should recognize about our team dynamics that might be getting in the way, or that might be costing us from reaching our full potential? And let's talk about it. Let's bring it into the light and do something about it.
Alex, this may be the quickest way to actually visualize a team's dynamics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's simple instructions, count to 20.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, that game you saw, it takes 2 minutes to play. You can reflect on it for 5 minutes. You can reflect on it for 5 hours. You can play it many, many different ways with different types of rules. And, you know, you can say, okay, let's say, you know, every 5 minutes, we're going to try a different strategy. And, you know, sometimes people will say, okay, like, everybody be on mute, but when you're about to talk, unmute yourself, and then notice who unmutes themselves first. And then they talk. I mean, you could put these little processes in place and try them out. And yeah, it's really effective, and the conversations that it brings up are so important.
Because they're not necessarily the tool to the conversation that happens after the tool. Yeah.
Yeah. And so with that question of, like, what are the things that it would be helpful to know about yourself, about other people, about the team dynamics, about how we work together? That's the next section. And the next game is, like, how do you connect specific games with those conversations that you want to have? How do you make sure you're bringing out those personality traits, or those skills or ways of interacting? And this is where, going a little bit into game design, every game is made up of mechanics and dynamics. And the mechanics are, what are they're like built into the instruction and the design of the game. You know, there is an element of it's competitive or it's collaborative. There's an element of chance. So you can be really good and do everything right, and you might still lose because of randomness. There's a turn-taking element. So those are all the mechanics, is like the structure of the experience. The dynamics are, how do people act and interact within the game? And so if you look at what are the dynamics inherent within the game, there are skills, like critical interpersonal skills, that are connected to that. And so you can say, I want, you know, grit. It seems like this team, people give up really easily. We want to, you know, strengthen the idea of grit. So let's look at games that have an element of, like, you know, there's going to be obstacles and you just have to get through them. This is not a game that you can solve and win really quickly. Maybe like a puzzle game or a strategy game might be good here. And one of the tools that I'll share at the end of this is, we built a database where there's about 120 games in there now, and you can search by particular dynamics. So if you say, we have a team that, you know, we want to figure out how to leverage people's leadership styles and look for opportunities to inspire or support other people. So I'm going to search for games that have a leadership element, because then that's going to come out and we can talk about it. So as you're thinking about how do you design an experience around a game, first you want to start at, what are the outcomes you're aiming for? What are those things that would be helpful to know about each other? What's a skill that you want to build? What's a problem that's coming up a lot that you want to resolve, a specific tension? And then you can go in and you know, look for games that have those specific mechanics and dynamics. And then it's, what are the reflection questions that we ask, maybe before the game, during the game, after the game, that are going to focus people's attention on the right element of the experience? So that, like, for example, when I say before with drawing games, that I have to say often, it is not about what your drawing looks like. It is about how you feel as you're doing something that may or not be outside of your comfort zone. And then afterwards, the reflection would be, you know, what were you thinking? What did you notice in how you felt as you were doing this thing. What could have helped you feel more comfortable? What did somebody else do that maybe change your perspective a little bit? So it's really design thinking. What's the outcome you're trying to get to? What are the steps that you need to take to bring that focus in? And then how do you bring in that experiential learning, the reflective piece to really drive people's attentions and insights to the takeaways that you're looking to get? So I thought we would do an example together and think about, let's say we're a team that recently there have been a lot of errors and missed deadlines because we seem to be talking past each other. We don't have that sense of like, we can think as a whole. So what are some of the skills or dynamics that we might want to dig into to address this challenge that might help us get through it?
Accountability probably comes to mind.
Mhm.
There's this.
Empathy,
Yeah.
being able to
Mhm.
empathize with each other on why the errors happened or why it went wrong.
Mhm.
Maybe there needs to be more rapport
Yeah.
within the team.
Mhm. Yeah, these are all great. So I picked a couple. So active listening is,
Yep.
a lot of times unclear communication is because somebody already has an answer before they really understand what the person's asking them. And so you're not really answering the right question with the right information. Attention and engagement, you're making sure people feel like they're a part of it and then that their role is important, and that they need to be a contributor. Precision in communication and critical thinking. If things aren't going well, rather than just wait for, the train to crash into the station, what are little things that you can do to change the trajectory?
Yeah.
And so if I went into
Okay.
the game database, which again, I'll share in a second. It was like, okay, what's a game that has these different elements? Codenames is a great example. Has anybody, I know Stephanie's a Codenames fan. Has anybody else played Codenames before?
It's been 10 years.
So it's a game where precise communication is really important, and you have to be able to adjust what you're communicating based on the response that you're getting from other people. So we're going to play it's an abbreviated version of code names. And I'm going to use Miro just for ease of use. So how Codenames works, you have all of these different cards that have different words on them. I created this one for around Halloween, so these are all Halloween themed words. You have all these different words, and the objective of the game, you have a red team and a blue team, and these are opposing spy agencies. And every one of these words is a spy's code name, like an agent's field name. And I am trying to communicate with my team. If I'm like the spy master, so I'm the person on my team spy agency that's trying to call back our agents. I'm trying to give clues to my team to help them guess what agents I'm talking about. So if I were to say, like looking at these 9 cards here, and I say red 2, that means the word red is somehow associated with 2 of the spies that I'm trying to call back. And the 2 is how many spies there are that the clue applies to. So if I were to say red 2, which of these agents do you think I might be referring to? Then you could talk amongst yourselves to deliberate.
Yeah, so team one word clue, right? I read 2.
Twizzlers.
Red.
I would say Twizzlers and maybe Skittles.
Mm.
clue.
I was
It's been
thinking
a
maybe
long time since I've eaten this candy, so I have to remember back from a long time ago.
Yeah. Ethan, what were you going to say?
I was thinking maybe peppermint patty for the second one. But yeah, I mean, one of them's got to be Twizzlers. Yeah.
So then as a group, the member of my team would figure out, okay, what guesses do we want to make? And say, okay, we're ready to submit a first guess. Like which one of these agents do you think I might be referring to? You pick one first and submit it, and then I'll let you know if you've got it right or not.
Well, it could be also toffee apple. Kind of red, no?
Oh, toffee apple. Okay.
So what would you all throw out as your first guess? You have to agree on it as a team.
The spy master gives her team a one-word clue. Refers to at least one. Oh, the one word's red. Okay, I got it. The clue also contains a number corresponding to the number. Okay.
So can we agree as a team that Twizzlers is probably one of a good clue,
Yeah.
good
Yeah.
choice?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, excellent. So if we're on the red team and you guessed Twizzlers, yes, that was one. So now that's covered in red. That's a red agent. So one of the red agents has successfully been called back.
Okay.
And then it would go over to the other team. And so the spy masters have a map of which of the words are on their team, which of the words go to the other team. Some of the words are innocent bystanders. And one of the agents is actually an assassin. And if you accidentally guess the assassin, the other team automatically wins.
Yeah.
So as the spy master is giving the clues, they have to pay attention to, are people making the same associations with these words as they are?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it sending people on a total wrong track? And so maybe on the next round, you need to change your clue. Do people, as people are talking on a team, are they thinking in wildly different directions? And the people have all these different associations with different words. So a clue that you thought might be really clear is actually dividing the team. So on the next turn, you might want to adjust it. So as you're thinking about clear communication and active listening and keeping people engaged and that precision, these are all factors that play into whether your team plays the game successfully or not. Do we want to try playing around?
Sure.
Yeah. I'm up for that. Yep.
So I have another Halloween themed board.
Okay.
I'll zoom in. And let's split up. There are
1, 2, 3, 7 of us, right? VJ might be hard because he's driving.
7. Although Vita, if you can't see, maybe you'll be observe only. So we can have 2 teams of 3. So I'm just going to go in the rows people are in my screen. We'll have Stephanie, Osnat, and Casey. You will be the red team.
Woohoo.
And Renee, Chanel, and Ethan, you will be the blue team. And each team, who would like to be the spy master? The one giving the clues.
That's Stephanie be our spy master. Yes.
Okay.
I can be the
Stephanie.
spy master for my team.
Perfect. Okay, so Stephanie, I just put in a private chat to you the spy master map. And Ethan, I just sent it to you. So you should be able to open it and you'll see the same grid of agents, but color coded.
Is it a Google? Is it a Google?
Yeah, it's like a slide.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Is it opening for you?
I got it. Yes.
Okay, perfect. So let's have, and I don't think we'll have time to play the whole thing through, but we'll play a couple of rounds. let's have the blue team go first. Any questions just to clarify the instructions before we go in and play?
Yeah, and which team are we again? Red or blue?
You're red.
Oh, okay.
Stephanie's team is red, and Ethan's team is blue.
Sorry, I have to find this again. Okay, there we go. I'm gonna mute myself just for a second. I can.
All right, and Ethan, whenever you are ready to give your first clue, remember it's one word and then a number.
Okay. I'll just do something simple. I'll do fire 1.
And
Nice.
so do we just, as a group, the blue team?
Yeah, you're discussing amongst yourself, like, what do you think? Which
And we
agents
just do
you
it out
think?
loud?
Yeah, you talk out loud and then let me know what, like, okay, we're ready to submit our guess.
So I see candle. He said fire. A 1?
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
Okay.
I would
What
agree
else?
with that.
So is that our
All
final answer?
Yep.
All right. We're going to go with candle, Ethan.
Okay. Yeah, that's right.
Woo-hoo. Oh,
Yay.
awesome.
All right.
Boo,
So
boo,
now we
boo,
go
boo.
to the red team.
Okay, I'm gonna say pi 4 3.
Pi 4 3.
5, 4, 3.
I see pumpkin,
Chocolate.
chocolate, caramel. There's not a skeleton pie, I know that, but it's probably not caramel. So we got pumpkin and chocolate.
Caramel? I don't know. Is that pie?
Can I mention? I'm not going to give any. I'm not going to tip anybody off, but so because people are kind of new to the game, like you have to think outside of the box sometimes a little bit. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay.
So we got pumpkin and we got chocolate pie. Is there math up here? Pie.
And you don't have to guess 3. If you feel like, okay, we're comfortable at 2 of these, we want to hold on to the third, you can do that as well.
Pumpkin and chocolate. Does that sound
Well,
good to you?
Out of the box, I'm also thinking about a spider.
Spider.
Like a spidergram.
Like a spider, like a pie. Oh. Yeah. What the heck? We'll go with it. Spider, chocolate, and pie. Spider.
Right, which one do you want to do first?
Pumpkin. Pumpkin work for you, Osnat?
Yeah, I think so.
Pumpkin.
All right. You got pumpkin.
Chocolate. I think chocolate works for us.
Got chocolate.
And then we got spider as in a pie.
Actually, spider was one of them. So excellent.
Wow.
Awesome. Oh,
hey, high five, Casey.
Yay, red team!
No, Stephanie.
That was awesome.
Wow.
So now we're back to the blue team.
Wow.
Sorry, I forgot I was muted. I'll do sky 2.
All right. So sky, I see a full moon.
Yep.
Renee.
That stood out to me as well. I thought mist, maybe, because that's something that happens in the sky.
Sure.
Or nighttime. It could be nighttime as well.
Ooh.
But definitely full moon.
Yes. Okay. So Matt, you said mist or nighttime. They both are relevant. What should we go with?
I'm gonna go with nighttime.
Okay. All right, Ethan.
Is that what you want to submit first?
Full time, or full moon and nighttime.
Okay. Yeah.
All
Full
right,
moon is correct.
is correct. But nighttime was one of their red agents.
Oh, so all our agents got home. Oh, I mean, good. But
So let's do one more turn for the red team, and then we'll
Getting
we'll
competitive
reflect
here.
Okay, I'm gonna say skinny for 2.
Skinny?
I'm thinking skeleton fits up there.
Hmm.
And skinny. Scarecrow? Superhero cape. Mist.
No. Hmm.
Skinny. Skinny, skinny, skinny. Skeleton's the only one that really resonates with me. Maybe Scarecrow, but Skeleton, I think, uh, um, is about as skinny as you can get because there's no skin left on his.
Yeah.
Um,
Skinny. Hmm. You know, superheroes are pretty skinny.
oh, yeah, we can do that. Scarecrow and superheroes work for me. I'm sorry, skeleton and superheroes.
Yeah, we want to try that?
Yeah, let's go. Works for me.
Which one do you want to do first?
I think skeleton. Skeleton.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then superhero.
Superhero was blue.
Oh.
All right. So you see, we would
Thanks,
go
Alex.
until one team got all of their agents, or one team accidentally guessed the assassin, and then the game was over. So going back now, so remember we were talking about a team that's had, there have been errors, there have been missed deadlines, there's a lot of miscommunication. These are some of the reflective questions that we might dive into. But let's go to the first one that's in bold. Like, what did you notice about how different people approached this? And thinking in terms of how you communicate with each other and how you coordinate with each other.
Well, some people were second guessing themselves,
Mm-hmm.
and they were right, even though they were right. That's when, or they had a good answer, but they second guessed themselves or deferred to somebody else.
And it's also I'm trying to build there's some harmony right here, right? Because I think with and the teams getting to know each other a little bit, right? I think the lesson here is not whether you're right or wrong. How's the communication going back and forth with each other? I think it's one of the lessons here.
Yeah, that there's something here also about the reference points. Like my library of association is different than Casey's.
Yeah.
And that might need some clarity.
And I was leaning into Austin when she said the first clue was pie, and she says spider chart. I'm like, I never thought of that. Let's lean into that.
Yeah. But how often does that happen at work? There's so many business jargon terms that companies might use differently. And so, depending on where people worked before their current job, they might use terms differently and might assume that everybody knows exactly what they mean, and they don't. And so just questioning, hey, do we all use words in the same way? What are the words we use most often? And let's make sure we're all on the same page about that. So that you probably wouldn't know to think about, but that this game might prompt to be like, when we say, now, of course, I can't think of an example. But Okay, like, so does everybody agree? Like, do we literally need 100% consensus? Are we looking for a majority? Like, what are you looking
You make
for
a
when you
decision.
say, does everybody agree?
Yeah.
And to make a
Yeah.
decision.
Just to clarify, when I said the word pie, the words I was thinking of was pumpkin, chocolate, and treat. And the spider just happened to be red. So you got it right. You got it right randomly.
Oh,
FYI.
wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Oh,
Yeah.
it's fabulous.
I know we're running out of time, so but you see, there's so much we could reflect on this
Mhm.
and looking at how you work together better. How can you apply this? And this is a game. There's a great free version you can play online. You can buy it in like any store that sells games, and there's a lot that comes out of it about reflection and self-awareness and how to work together better. The other thing I want to show you is the game database that I mentioned, and I'll if you send me your information, I'll send you a link to access this because it's free. You can go into this database and go to filter, and I can say, okay, for game dynamics, I want communication, and I want decision making, and let's try those filters. And there's 91 games in the database that have that. But code names is one of them. So then you can go in and click code names, and it'll say how to play, how to facilitate, what are some good reflective questions, what are the different mechanics and dynamics. And then for all of the terminology that's in here, the different mechanics and dynamics, also on the platform, under here, like these are all of the different frameworks that we use for connecting, for what are the game mechanics and dynamics, how do you connect specific mechanics and dynamics to the culture and like areas for growth and development for teams. The iceberg is also on here. So there's a lot to dig into if you're curious to learn more about using play and how to connect it with different outcomes. So if you're curious to get that, just either send me an email, or if you scan this QR code, it'll just ask you to send me a text with your email address, and I will send you that link, so you can go play around in the database. I love talking about this. I'm happy to stay on. I'm happy to set up another call if you have questions, comments. But I hope that this is useful. I hope it gave you some ideas about using play. Yeah, that's not.
Yeah, my question is that here we are, I think 6, 7 people, and we managed to get a pretty good play out of this. What is the minimum number of people to have meaningful experience?
Yeah, it depends on the game. And so if you go into the database, one of the filters is number of participants. There are games that 2 people can have an amazing conversation at. There are games where it's, 4. There are games that, that one person can do, and we just want to dig into self-reflection. So that's one of the characteristics of a game that you can filter for.
Thank you.
Yeah. Other questions, thoughts, reflections?
Alex, I want to thank you for spending the time coming in and spending your evening, your valuable time with us. And with this, everyone, I'm going to stop the recording. Thank you very much. Another Nova Scribes for the group here, and we'll see you at the next one.